there is this pervasive myth that the countryside is silent. Just because you don't hear 50 cars per minute, or an ambulance every day, or because there is no human chatter in the street at almost any hour of the day, that does not mean the countryside is silent. In fact, at least where I live, I dare say it is almost louder than the capital cities I have lived in before. The arrival of spring was loud and demanding, and the birds reclaimed their space here just like people do in the cities. A steady momentum that reveals the nonchalance of nature regarding the inconsequentiality of human thought, a natural urgency for change, an almost overwhelming amount of life happening all at once outside your window, entirely indifferent to whether you are ready for it or not. But I always am. I am always ready for spring. Back in the city, time felt different. It manifested as exact limits. It felt flat, linear, almost artificial. It could have been due to the lack of immediate connection with nature. I got my cues from the clock on the wall or on my phone, and time felt almost artificial, like it was only happening to me. Only for me, in that specific concrete box, the time was 7 o'clock and 10 and 3 and so on. Here, where nature is widely accessible, time feels shared. When it's 7 o'clock for me, I share this time with my rose bush and the trees outside my window. When it's 10 o'clock and it just stopped raining, I share this time with the snails and the earthworms from my garden. Early morning and nighttime arrive when the birds are loudly chattering, not when the clock tells me. And I feel my body responding to this, making me more motivated, more productive, more purposeful. Interior design has always been a big part of my experience of life. I remember being little at my grandmother's house and admiring the way the cabinets were decorated with books, small trinkets, crystal glasses and vases. I remember running through the garden, picking tulips, lilies, and peonies for the living room, how they were positioned in a certain way in the vase on the table. Later on, when I moved to the city, I started collecting dry leaves, flowers, acorns, and chestnuts, scattering them around the room and on the walls. It is then that I inadvertently understood, in very simple, abstract terms, that bringing nature indoors is an act of curation. And maybe it sounds selfish, or even a little violent, to want to domesticate or possess that which we admire. But observation is rarely passive. It is closely related to the need for safety, because nature in its pure state is unpredictable. It rots, it overgrows, it takes over, stings, bites, and remains entirely indifferent to our comfort. It only caters to our survival. So we try to strip it of danger, sand down its roughness, build around it, frame it, and assign it space between our walls, carefully adjusting it to fit our needs. But at the end of the day, this proves to be a simple mirage of our ego. The truth is, nature adjusts to us, and the illusion of control over it is simply a sanctuary of the mind, an attempt of a truce between the all-powerful, all-encompassing nature and our fragile awareness of it and ourselves. Summer is when this 150-year-old stone house shows its beautiful wrinkles created by the many lives it has kept between its walls. The light is now thick, golden, demanding. It forces its way into the corners of our home, exposing its unique flaws in the plastering and scratches on the furniture. With the intense time-sensitive work that needed to be done in our garden, spring seemed to pass way too quickly. The hyacinths and tulips bloomed fast, the peonies bloomed before sound glass, but I had time to enjoy them all indoors, in a vase. The early summer landscape is like a book being read too swiftly. Every morning the view from my window is different. The green is darker, the rosebush denser. Outside, the private, meticulous identities we built inside our homes feel small, and although it feels deeply exposing, it is also liberating. The interior monologue feels safe, comfortable, and seems entirely in our control. It edits its own history, hides behind choices, and pretends everything fits perfectly, even when facts show us otherwise. It keeps us stale and complacent. And just like the outside, our outer voice subjects us to external judgment, shaping our inner voice from within, teaching us through internalization, putting us face to face with a new truth, an external one. We spend a lot of intellectual energy trying to construct a self-contained life. We curate and refine our tastes. We either keep in touch with trends or find comfort in the safety of the classic, building an elaborate construct of the self designed to protect the ego from the friction of the outside world. But beyond all this discipline of building an identity that you can recognize as yourself, to live only in a vacuum of your own mind feels like an erasure. Your thoughts begin to feel like a phantom limb. You feel it intensely, but it is invisible to others. At a first glance, we design and curate the space around us so that we can occupy a space that resonates with us in the moment. But it is not only that. We create a stage from which to be witnessed by an external point of reference that can validate that the person moving on this stage is actually there. And not just for attention or some transactional validation by a paying audience, but a deep existential craving. Even as an introvert, one feels this fundamental human need to be anchored to this shared reality by another pair of eyes, another observer. Your own reality then is pulled out of the abstract and forced into the shared reality, granting you permission to take a break from the labor of self-definition. this necessity, of course, comes as a double-edged sword. It invites an observer into your small, curated inner life, thus binding you to a surrendering of control over your own image and self-regarded identity, relinquishing the ability to edit out the ugly, the awkward, and the jagged. The witness doesn't just see the polished aesthetic figure you project, and that is the risk one must take. Because the alternative of isolation isn't just a fear of loneliness. It is, at its core, the daunting fear that your internal, unique identity will pass through life unrecorded, unseen, and disregarded. We open our doors despite the danger, because we need our sisters and brothers, our witnesses, to hold up a mirror to the parts of ourselves we are too afraid to look at alone. If this little glimpse of my life and my thoughts offered you a moment of stillness and reflection, I invite you to return to Maison Nadine for the next episode. Until then, thank you for sharing this space with me.